Okay, welcome everybody to Red Light Holland's Q&A. Very grateful. It looks like we have almost 50 participants here, so that's a really awesome, strong support system we have in terms of Red Light Holland investors. And clearly we're a widely held company, but we're very grateful for every single one of your support. I'm Todd Shapiro, the CEO of the company. As you know, I love to be very vocal when it comes to my social media platforms of Instagram or Twitter and stuff, but doing these face-to-faces through Zoom are great. It's a way for us to be transparent and a way for Red Light Holland to update investors of everything we've sort of talked about in our MD&A and some things that we'd like to share with you live here today. Again, we love to be transparent and open communication. So here we are. So let's have some fun with this. All right. That's the whole goal of this. And before I start, I would like to hand it over to David Ascott, who's our CFO, just to report. We did our Q1 filings just about a week and a bit ago, and he could just give a quick update for those who maybe didn't go to see it or didn't see the press release. Thank you, David.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. As Todd mentioned, we recently filed our Q1 2023 financial statements for the 3 months ended June 30th, 2022. Highlights from the statements for the 3-month period include revenue of $785,000 for the quarter as compared to $595,000 in the comparative period in the prior year. Gross profit was $289,000, which equates to 36.8% of sales, as compared to $96,000 in the prior year, and that was 16.1% of sales. So the increase in revenue is as a result of organic growth. Revenue as a result of recent acquisitions, and revenue attributed to new product lines. And the strength in the gross profit margin has been driven largely by operational efficiencies, but also some favorable product mix in the consolidation as well. And as at June 30th, our balance sheet shows a cash position of $23 million. And property, plant, and equipment of $4.8 million. And I've highlighted those two for these reasons. First, our financial position and liquidity remain strong, and the company currently has sufficient capital and cash to fund its ongoing business and all of our plans for the foreseeable future. We've been very prudent with our cash spending, and part of that has been a focus on revenues and driving gross profit, all the while managing the general and administrative expenses underneath to grow this company. Anytime we look at an acquisition, we're looking at near-term accretive cash flow from that acquisition. So we're looking at shared services, whether it be financial or marketing, to help all these entities grow and flourish to where we think they can get to. And with regards to our fixed asset additions, recently, like as I mentioned, we now have $4.8 million in property and equipment, and that includes $2.5 million in a mushroom production facility in New Brunswick, and $1.9 million related to our recently acquired farmland near Peterborough, Ontario. And both of those projects are the first in New Brunswick is sort of in its early stages, not at full capacity yet, but growing towards it. And we're really liking what we're seeing coming out of that facility. And in Peterborough, that's still in early development stages, and I'm sure Todd will touch on that in his update as well. So those are sort of the very high-level highlights from our financial statements. If you want to dig deeper, they are available on sedar.com, and we encourage you to go take a look. So at this point, I'll pass it back to Todd. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, David. For everyone who's joined, and I think we're approaching over 50 now, like 55, 60. David Ascott's a rock star. And I apologize. Our year end is terrible timing if you want to enjoy your summer. And David, during the audits that we had for year end filing just before our Q1, was quite arduous. Actually, it was a long and arduous process. And David gave so much of his time. So like all shareholders should be sending him some sort of a, like a 2-4 or something, because I don't think you enjoyed 1 minute of the summer, David. But thank you so much for all your hard work. David came over earlier this year, and one of his huge roles he had was at Rocky Mountain dealerships, and in his tenure, they did over $1 billion in revenue. So and they were listed on the TSX at the time. So David's a very experienced CFO, and as the company expands, which it does, it's amazing to have someone with his expertise, obviously with his work ethic, and just with his leadership. He's been a great mentor for me, nice yin and yang. And we're just so pleased to have him now working in full capacity with us over now, a bunch of different months. So thank you to David. And if you have any questions on the financial side, David's going to be here for the entire Q&A. At some point, I will also introduce Sarah Hashkes, who joined us back from Burning Man, which is phenomenal. And Sarah is our Chief Technology and Innovation Officer, kind of like our Chief Scientific Officer as well, and really leading the Free the Magic campaign. And she'll give you updates later when it comes to Mira. She'll give you updates later when it comes to Seacrest Labs and Shimon Pharma. And we're going to do the Q&A. We'll get to it in a little bit. But first, what I'd like to do is just walk you through our triangular approach. I'm going to give a quick, brief rundown, and then I promise I'll do my very best to get to all of you. And we're really excited. We can even talk about the wisdom truffles you see in the background. And again, we're here for you guys and you ladies, and we can't wait to be able to answer any question that you might have. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and quickly walk everybody through this. So as you see here, we got to go through disclaimers. You can slow those down later. We're recording this and read them. But this is an earlier draft is posted on our website at redlight.co. But this actual draft will be posted right after the Q&A here. So what is Red Light Holland? I mean, we aim to build the largest psilocybin brand in the world, focus on innovative, unique, and standardized naturally occurring products, which are sustainable, educational, and promoting responsible use. We have a triangular approach to our vision. If you look at the bottom first from one up, you'll see that our foundation is really focused on revenue generation and technology. But when it comes to the revenue generation, what I love about it is we have a lot of peers, obviously, within the psychedelic sector. And being publicly traded now for more than a couple of years, I think at first, a lot of people just thought that endless amounts of cash were going to come in, and that this was just going to be cannabis, times 10. But we, from the very get-go, recognized that we had to be patient here. And what are the catalysts for psychedelics? And the true catalysts for psychedelics are yet still to be unknown. And we'll get into some of them through the Q&A, whether it comes to Measure 109 or what's happening in Canada. But we really made a pivot about a year ago, February, about 18 months ago, to focus on mushroom farming and revenue generation and setting up infrastructure. And we'll talk about that. And I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions when it comes to AEM. And then we talk about our strategy. And of course, number 3 in the triangular vision is the Free the Magic. I mean, we want accessible, affordable, equitable products. And we really want to concentrate on that for all. So if we go now to the foundation, in the Netherlands, we were, I think, brilliant in acquiring SR Wholesale. And SR Wholesale distributes truffles to products to over 200 stores in the Netherlands. They have the ability to distribute non-truffle products to another 1,000 stores across the EU. And we're opening up more EU sales as we speak. And SR Wholesale has grown to become one of the most recognized and trusted distribution companies in all of the Netherlands. And here's our foundation. I mean, we started a farm. When we had this idea years ago, we weren't farmers, but we quickly became farmers. And we love the farming industry. And we have our Red Light Farm in Horst, the Netherlands. By the way, all roads run through Horst when it comes to mushroom farming. I mean, it's a pretty serendipitous, and we'll talk about it down the road here on this presentation. But, as we build out AEM in Peterborough, the firm that we most likely will hire will be a firm from Horst, the Netherlands, that's actually working on a proposal of designing the facility. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And we started with our brands. I mean, great brand creation. You look at the iMicrodose brand, you look at the Maca brand. We did this ourselves. We didn't hire huge design agencies. We didn't go out and spend copious amounts of money. We just put our head down as a team and came up with this through brainstorms. And we're quite pleased with the way the products are being viewed and consumed. And of course, back to that educational, informational, responsible use, we're doing it like nobody else. I won't read all this stuff, but when it comes to the foundation, again, we also wanted to talk about brick and mortar opportunities. And now we've achieved that. We purchased 2 smart shops, one in Oos, it's a population just over 100,000, not the biggest of cities, and another one in Utrecht. And for those from the Netherlands, if I pronounced Utrecht wrong, I apologize. Some say Utrecht, some say Utrecht. I don't quite know, but I do know there's about 350,000 people in that city. It's a huge college town, a really busy city center, and we're very pleased to have 2 smart shops there that we will eventually move towards wellness worlds and wellness stores, because we really are focused on being a health and wellness company. And we think that that's our, premium when people look at us. We don't want to just be seedy, underground kind of head shop style smart shops that maybe you would have seen across the Netherlands if you've been there, or even if you've been in Toronto on Yonge Street back in the day. We really want to innovate, and we really want to show what we can do with like really modern, very, just really cool shops that are focused on education and wellness. How about partnering with Wiz Khalifa? I mean, here's a guy who has over 140 million followers across his social media platforms, one of the biggest celebrities on the planet. And he is so committed to getting great compliance and education around magic mushrooms and psychedelics. And we love the fact that we can work on a psychedelic mushroom brand in the Netherlands called Mr. Cap. And we are working on that right now. And I'm sure people have questions. We can tell you a little bit about that. Also, a Rec and Tech initiative that we will, again, discover and go further into with Sarah Hashkes. But again, it's all about providing equitable, affordable access while continually learning from end consumers to help with data collection. Data collection is so important, so we can hopefully provide it to progressive lawmakers across the world. We have a guinea pig market in the Netherlands, so let's make sure that we make the most of it. We've set up things like telecounseling support in the Netherlands. Again, back to responsible use. Talk about great corporate governance in a company and being self-regulatory. That's what Red Light Holland is. In the foundation now, you talk about revenue generation. Again, we have AEM farms in New Brunswick, and we are now at about 60 to 70% capacity. And in the near term, with the ability to produce 5,000 pounds of shiitake mushrooms per week. We talked about it in our MD&A that if you do the math at about $6 per pound, that should get us about $30,000 per week in shiitake mushroom sales. And that adds up pretty quick to great revenues if we obviously reach capacity and if we sell all those mushrooms. We then bought the land in Peterborough very recently, 100 acres of farmland we bought to construct 65,000 square foot facility. There's 2 facilities actually for mushroom production. And we will talk about the stages where we're at as we head towards the build out. And then of course, the revenues that we anticipate coming in, if all goes according to plan, in about 18 months. Is it will take some time to build that out, but this is a huge opportunity for us for revenue growth. And we're very excited about working with our partners to build out AEM Peterborough. And then we have Happy Caps. Again, we think small to think big. The way I like to look at it is we sort of learn, we brand, and then we apply that to other brands while we farm and supply. And Happy Caps has been a great project for us. We've increased sales month over month since we acquired 80% of them. And we love working with Kobo and Hattie. And I think people should go to Amazon right now or happycaps.ca and go and order your kits, or maybe wait till the presentation's done. And of course, we anticipate to launch Mr. Cap homegrown natural mushroom kits in the United States, Europe, and Canada, and hopefully other functional mushroom products by the end of fiscal 2022 with a future launch of Mr. Cap, which you're going to see on the website, social medias, and Wiz is going to get very active in promoting Mr. Cap brand, Wiz Khalifa. So back to the foundation, we also have Radix Motion, and we'll get to Sarah Hashkes a little later. We've created the iMicro app that many people know of. We have the wisdom truffles, and I know a lot of you have questions on the wisdom truffles. It's funny, I never go on the forums, but recently I went on the forums to kind of prep for this Q&A, and I heard what people are saying. What is this, a fart lamp or whatever? People are chirping it a little bit, but we are so confident in this smart home device and meditation aid that we're building. Sarah Hashkes will report to you, and she took it to Burning Man and the response she was getting. And listen, it might not be for all investors to go and want to purchase a wisdom truffle when we eventually get to production with them, but there is an entire world out there that really are engaged in these type of meditation aids. And it might not be the investor crowd. It might be more of the yoga. It might be more of someone who goes to Burning Man consumer. It might be, someone who's going through some some difficult times in their life that want some friendly figure around. So we're really talking about the Wisdom Truffle designed by Karim Rashid, Time Magazine Structural Designer of the Americas 2 years ago. It's just a great product, and we can't wait to get to market with it. It's also a great branding exercise, as it has our logo right on the face. We'll talk about the strategy, which is Scarlet Lily Sciences, and that's obviously Mira. And people have a lot of questions on what's going on in St. Vincent, and we will address every single one of them. And then the special access program provider and our partner Seacrest Labs in Montreal, about how we've had now 2 psilocybin import licenses where we brought our truffles in through a Health Canada approved license, and what they're doing with the truffles and how we're working towards naturally occurring standardized products. And Sarah will give you an update in the Q&A. I'm sure you have many questions regarding the products as well. Back to strategy, data collection, which is so important, educational events. We're going to do much more media stuff too. I'm going to kind of go back to old school, what I'm used to doing, and really get a lot of content in terms of podcasts and getting great guests and really talking about the psychedelic community that is coming together and growing largely. It's not just the same few speakers that you may have seen at all these conferences. We're getting many new people and many new interests from all demographics. And I'm excited to be able to start sharing some of that stuff through podcasts and content on Twitter and Instagram and things. And then our ultimate dream vision here is free the magic. We want to help people, and we want to give back. We want to disrupt big pharma, and we continually want to collect consensual biometric movement data and observational data to help prove out the benefits and positive benefits for all demographics. We want to free the magic again, and we aim to build the largest psilocybin brand in the world, focused on innovative, unique, and standardized naturally occurring products, which are sustainable, educational, and promoting responsible use. So that's the presentation. Maybe David, quickly, you could just address this slide, and then we'll get into the Q&A.
Yeah. So this slide is outlining that in terms of our common shares outstanding, we have 362 million. Currently has a value of about $39.5 million. I mentioned earlier that we have $23 million with cash as at June 30th, 2022. And at that same date, our total assets are now $32.7 million. So again, when we take a look at the capital and cash required to, flush out all of our ideas with regards to internal growth and acquisitive transactions and being able to fund all of these great ideas, we feel that we're in a very strong position with both our cash liquidity and capital that we currently have.
Excellent. So I'll stop sharing now, and thank you so much for going through that. Again, we'll post it on our website later today, maybe tomorrow at the latest, but we'll definitely get it there for you. So listen, we have 71 participants right now, and that's including 3 or 4 management, but really the bulk of it is, I imagine, investors. It could be a long time. So I hope everyone bears with us and we try to get to everybody. We're just so grateful again. And I think we'll open it up. We have Maggie, who is helping right now. Maggie is also just one of our incredible staff members here at Red Light Holland, who's going to help facilitate the Q&A. And essentially, we just would like you to raise your hand. Maggie will get to you. You can ask questions in the chat, and we'll try to get through that as we, towards the end of it all. But, I think now just sort of raise your hand. Maggie will unmute you. If you want to turn on your camera for effectiveness of the question, David, I, or Sarah would love to answer any question that you have.
Just in case people don't know how to raise your hand, it's under the reaction button. If you press that, you'll have a button, raise your hand. Not everybody lives on Zoom.
It looks like we have a couple, Maggie. Maggie, are we unmuting questions?
I just there we go.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute my video, but it says that it's the host that can only show the video of my face. But
oh, here, I just unmuted you.
Okay, my name's Tiger.
Okay. Hey,
God
Tiger.
bless y'all. Namaste. And I'm just down here in America, USA, and I'm a combat veteran. I served in the Afghan War as a Marine Corps rifleman. I practice yoga and I use medical cannabis, but I was kind of curious what your role will be to attack the post-traumatic stress issues for veterans and such. Thank you.
Yeah, and first off, thank you so much for your service. For those who know me personally, over the years of doing media, one of the things that I was always, I think really just amazed at is the bravery of soldiers and the armed forces. And it definitely, it's something I can't relate to in terms of post-traumatic stress disorder. And I think it's a really valid question. We have an advisor on one of our on our board, advisory board, named Glenn Cowan, and Glenn is an amazing individual who I've spent many nights talking about and some of the stuff he was suffering from. He's been open about using magic mushrooms to help him with it. And we're very focused on helping not just soldiers but really everybody. And I think Sarah is a good time for her to come in, because she can really talk to what we're learning about and what the studies are showing in terms of how it is helping with post-traumatic stress disorder. And we're starting to see a lot of science proving this stuff out now. So I'll hand this one over to Sarah right now. And again, thank you very much, Tiger.
Hi, yeah, there's definitely a lot of research showing that psilocybin used in a responsible way with support structures around it can help reduce PTSD, right? Psilocybin breaks down our brain's biases, and if those biases occur during trauma, we can break them down, and whatever environment you're in at that moment can sort of reprogram your brain to get to a sense of safety. A lot of PTSD is around staying in that rest and digest parasympathetic nervous system. And psilocybin in a safe environment can help you do that, as well as like you yourself do, right? Practicing yoga, meditation, being able to realize when you're getting close before you're triggered and calming yourself down. And that's one of the things that I'm really excited about Wisdom, because trying this out, and of course this was, in Burning Man and open environments, not in any clinical trial or very controlled environment yet, but it really works. People sitting with it for a few minutes were able to calm their heartbeat down. It turned blue. It really changed the whole community. And I think when we're treating PTSD, community is really a key point here. People feel so isolated, sometimes so hard to speak about it. I come from Israel. I did the military. I have a lot of friends, that are suffering from PTSD. And building community structures around the use of psilocybin, because we are limited on where we can put psilocybin out there, right? We're in the Netherlands, we're going to be in Oregon, wherever this is legal, we will find a way to get there. But until we can get there with the psilocybin as an intervention, we can get there with the other support tools that we're building. Yeah.
And I think it's important to note, Sarah, also that we do have a therapist that we work with in the Netherlands, Jeff Hamburg, and he does do therapy with veterans often. And it's interesting. Sarah and I have these conversations behind the scenes. Like, should we bring out a trip? Like, should we get people who want to experience therapy now and not wait for governments to do it legally? Because I'm sure there are places where you can do magic mushroom therapy, but it's not legal yet. But in the Netherlands, we can do therapeutic sessions with magic truffles, with our own branded magic truffles, quite frankly. And so, one of the things that Red Light might consider doing is offering opportunities like vacation packages, but to go and experience time in the Netherlands and get to meet our therapists. I think many of you probably saw Russell Peters did it with Jeff Hamburg, had a great experience, really talked about his ego death and really interesting things there. And it really helped him. And Jeff is helping people on the daily. So we would love to continue to figure out a way to help people. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us and we'll, help organize you get to Jeff as well. Okay, I think we can take another question, Maggie.
Hi there, Lyndon. You're unmuted now if you'd like to ask your question.
Hey, Todd. Are there any updates for the Health Canada imports? And also, what does the path to legalization in Canada look like?
Very good questions and very important questions. In terms of import licenses for psilocybin, I'll be careful how we say it, but we don't just want to stop at 2, put it that way. We've done 2 with Seacrest Labs. We feel that there's much more testing to be done with our magic truffles. And I'm going to pass it to Sarah as well. She's really in tune when it comes to everything that's going on with the special access program, how it sort of moved away from the exemption 56s and what we're seeing right now with the government of Canada. One thing I will say before Sarah talks, though, is we recognize it is a slow process. We recognize it's not one that the Canadian government wants you to force as a company. They don't want you pushing ideas or try to stimulate, whether it's just a certain demographic that wants to use magic mushrooms or investors in thinking that something is happening sooner than it is, because it will take time. And the most important thing, back to corporate governance and being self-regulatory as a company, is you don't want to upset governments. You want to make sure that you're working in tandem with them and that you're not just sort of press releasing something that seems big, but actually delivers on nothing down the road. So I'll leave it to Sarah, though, to help with that.
Yeah. So I think, one of the great things about Red Holland is we really try not to jump the gun. We're very responsible about what we press release and what we do. And sometimes you might be seeing other companies come out with these sort of make-believe products almost, because you cannot right now legally provide natural psilocybin as part of the SAP program in Canada. They were very clear about that. The great thing about working with Seacrest is they have a great relationship with Health Canada and they really follow all the regulations. And part of this, if we want to provide through the special access program, is going to be to show clinically that natural products are as good as synthetics. Now, anecdotally, we know this. 10,000 years of human use is unnatural products, right? Anecdotally, we are hearing people from the special access program using synthetics saying it's a much more jaggedy experience. You go up quick, you come down quick, because it gets immediately right into your body, versus when you're consuming the whole fruiting body or the truffles in our case. It takes time for it to actually get digested and integrate with your body in a much more natural way. So we are very much following that and seeing how can we prove this to Health Canada. Oh, this is going to be a long process. Well, we're also working, with grassroots organizations, both in Canada and around the world, to actually legalize for everyone. We do not think that you need to have a medical condition. A lot of people, especially marginalized communities, have been really hurt by the medical community. Some people will want to get this from their doctor, absolutely, and that's fine. But other people, people like myself, have benefited from doing this in places where it's legal, like the Netherlands, where we can get support. And that's what we want to happen. That's what Free the Magic is about. So we're really hoping to get a much larger group of grassroots people that know this, that want this, and help influence government decisions, both in Canada and in other locations.
Yeah, and to add to that, I mean, we're the people's company. I've said that from day one. We're representing people. and there's a lot of people that want access to naturally occurring psilocybin. And how do you do that? Well, you do that carefully. You do that, again, back with corporate governance, being self-regulatory, having careful, cautious conversations with the government. But, and I've said this before, and sometimes people laugh at me, but it's okay. There was a whole Tesla movement, years ago when Tesla launched, that people could have got involved in at I'm not just talking about the stock, but like supporting the idea of sustainable and electric cars. And if you look back in that fight and how long it's got, Elon Musk and that company to have their breakthrough year, which was really 2020, 2021. If you look at everything they did, it took time. I think they listed their shares in 2010, if I'm not mistaken. But people got behind a movement and something that they saw being available in the future. Well, the future is now. And eventually we believe, with our hard work and others supporting us, that the future will be now when it comes to access for psilocybin. So we're excited to continually to fight that fight, to free the magic. And it's something, again, back with content and back with opportunities of buying merch and supporting this movement, that we, not only implore you all to get behind, but we know as a company, we dedicated our livelihood to this. Our commitment here is to leave a legacy. It's obviously, yeah, we're a publicly traded company. We want to increase revenues quarter over quarter. We're showing you we're doing that. We want to be cautious with our cash as we grow. We're proving to you that we're doing that, but we want to leave a legacy here. And the legacy helps with the support of all of you. So we're really appreciative and grateful for that. Let's move on to another question. Maggie, please, if you could unmute someone who has their hand up. Thank you.
Hi, Joseph, you're unmuted there.
Yeah, hey Maggie, thank you. Hey Todd and everybody, it's Joe here, the jingle writer, a proud member of Red Light Army. I just want to make sure we touched on a couple important things through the slide, just in case no one else asks. If we could briefly, I got like 2-3 things here, Todd. Any estimates on profits for those 2 smart shops you picked up? What is the current status of Mira and Brazil with a Disrupt Pharma? And yeah, when would the Wisdom Lamp and Mr. Cap release date be in the future? And also, is the Petersboro farm going to be like a 2-year build out, or could we actually see that towards the end of 2023?
Okay, thanks, Joe, and thank you again for being a big supporter of the Red Light Army. And that's awesome. We got a Red Light Army. I know Sarah doesn't love the word army. She's like, it should be Red Light Family or something, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we got to change that hashtag one day. Lots to address there, Joe, and you probably took away a lot of other people's questions too. So if I don't get to all what you asked, I'm sure other people will pick it up. But number one, you asked about wait, what did you ask about number one now? Now I'm
Smart shops.
Yeah, the smart shop. So yeah, there. Okay, listen. One is an OS of a town of only 100,000 people. Listen, this thing isn't the greatest, biggest money maker in the world, but it is a profitable shop. I think we'll wait to our next breakdown of the financials to really let you know about what each shop can do in terms of revenue. But what I can tell you is they were profitable when we bought them. So for an operating company, and you'll see this with a lot of acquisitions, people buy companies that are losing money. I want to buy companies that are making money, and then I want to add infrastructure and support to those companies, rebrand those companies. They already have a great customer base that comes into both the Ulst and Utrecht shop. But we think with rebranding them, making them wellness worlds, we can then increase the amount of consumers that come into those shops. We can increase the different types of products that are sold there to increase sales. So they are profitable as of now. It was great to see COVID end. A lot of people went back to retail shopping again. And that's the other reason why I don't really want to talk necessarily just about what the profits are, because we think we can increase those profits. So we will address that though, of breakdowns of companies, because we own a lot now. We own Happy Caps. Obviously, we own SR Wholesale. We own the 2 smart shops, and we're looking to expand potentially other smart shops. So we will address that at a future date. But as of now, they're making money and consumers are going in. I just left the Netherlands a couple of weeks ago, and it was great to speak to some of our consumers going through those shops and learning what we can do to make them better. And in terms of Mr. Cap, I know that was your last one of all the points. I'll let Sarah get to Mira in a moment. This is amazing. So listen, the Wiz Khalifa deal took like 9 months to do. All right. So like it is wild when you get these deals. And it was really amazing how it came about. I had met the team over at Khalifa Kush through another potential deal that didn't go through. And then they called me up months later to say, hey, we've loved your vibe. We love your company's vibe. And we're really intrigued to work with you when it comes to magic mushrooms or magic truffles, and of course, functional mushroom brands. So what can we do here? So we took a long time. We got a deal done. And I think it's a very favorable deal to Red Light Holland and a favorable deal to Red Light Holland shareholders. And the reason why that is part of the contract details, and, I won't get into everything, but Wiz has to deliver on deliverables when it comes to promoting the brand once we have it done and promoting the products. And that reach that he has, I mean, if I were to break it down per one post, it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yes, that's what these celebrities can choose, can charge for one post. So we're looking forward to building it out. This brand is actually being built out right now by a design agency out of Los Angeles. So some of the stuff we did when it came to Mock and I Microdose, we did that in-house. But this one, we're really going to focus on. This we think could be a big revenue generator for us. And we want to do it with mushroom home grow kits. We are looking at really cool functional mushroom products that fit Mr. Cap's brand and fit Wiz Khalifa. And of course, we're exploring the opportunity of doing the magic truffles in the Netherlands under that brand. So I would say that we should have, I'm hoping to be able to share with the public what that final brand build looks like within the next, call it 6 to 8 weeks. We would love to try to get product, and we've talked about it in our MD&A before the end of this year. So for the Christmas rush, and I promise you, when we have updates on what products or what home grow kits we're going to have with Mr. Cap, we will do that. But now we are targeting for the end of the year. Sarah, I'll give it to you to give a little update on Mira, which is one of Joe's 19,000 questions.
Yeah. So we're working very closely with the government and St. Vincent and the government representatives. It's a slow and complex process. They are very careful. They want to be the leaders, though. And we're starting to see over the last 2 weeks some real understanding from them that they need to move forward with regulations. That's sort of what we're waiting for, right? We've managed to import our truffles, but we're not legally allowed to sell them or give them to people. So we need to wait and see what the regulations are. But here we really are talking to them and saying, hey, these are the regulations we think will work. Again, based on our experience in the Netherlands, based on our experience and consensual data gathering from the iMicrodose app, based on the market research in Oregon. So we're really getting all this data together and saying, this is what we need for this to both benefit the St. Vincent and help St. Vincent economy, as well as be able to actually create medical tourism there. They're very interested in that. They are very interested in the educational aspect. A lot of therapists are, doing all these courses and learning how to do psilocybin therapy, but they aren't allowed legally to consume psilocybin almost anywhere in the world. So that's a big part of what St. Vincent is interested in, is allowing therapists to come there and legally consume psilocybin in supervised locations. And again, we're not jumping the gun. We don't rush everywhere and say this is what we're doing, because we don't want to spend money until we can actually do things. But I'm starting to be a little bit more optimistic now that we have seen the government come back and understand that they need to move forward a bit faster.
And to add to it, listen, we are one of 3 pioneer licenses over in St. Vincent. It just takes time. When it comes to psychedelics, if you look at the grand picture, which is really, how is it approached across the world? Sort of like cannabis, different markets did it slowly. We're still seeing some issues in the United States with cannabis. Everybody wants to take their time, especially the ones leading the fight, which is the fight that we're all a part of, which is how do we legalize, start with magic mushrooms and potentially others. So, every government is also cautious. There are always some who are going to be a little bit afraid of talking about legalizing psychedelics. Certain governments want to get back into power who are talking about doing it. So these things just take time. And that's what Red Light is most proud of. We recognize that this was going to take time from day one, which is why we didn't just frivolously spend the cash that we raised. And I think a lot of the companies made that mistake. I said it earlier. I think people thought catalysts were going to come much sooner than they have. And we were, with our ear to the ground, and we were confident in understanding that this was going to take time. So let's focus on revenue generation while building that psychedelic core, which we are doing, and collecting data, which we're doing in the Netherlands as well. And in terms of sales, we are selling a lot of psychedelics still, but we're doing it in the market that we're allowed to do it. So we're very proud of how we've accomplished everything so far as a team, and looking forward to updates from St. Vincent. Maggie, did I miss any other questions from Joe? Joe, you want to pop back on real quick?
Wisdom. He asked about a wisdom.
Oh,
update.
yeah, thank you. Sarah's a genius. That's why we have Sarah, by the way. Can you see wisdom? Can everyone see wisdom beside me? Can they see them? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this is awesome. Before Sarah talks about wisdom, I love wisdom. Okay. I love the wisdom truffle. I love the design. This is a really cool art piece. These are just a couple of prototypes. We've actually had advanced prototypes since these. But even the bigger one here, which is Star, is like incredible. So like Star, for example, maybe I'm just gonna turn off the light here, but like it's a speaker. That was my cell phone was charging in it. It's playing music here. I don't have
I
the
can hear the
licensing.
music. I think your microphone is too focused on your face.
Okay, no problem. Anyway, we were playing music there. Thanks, Sarah. And again, cell phone charger, meditation device. Look at this beautiful art piece. This is a smaller one, Moon, a prototype, which deals with your heart rate. And Sarah can explain a little bit about wisdom and give you an update on where we're at with production, because things have, listen, the world's a little screwed up right now. That's the truth. And everybody knows that. Supply chain issues are screwed up. Production issues are a little bit messed up right now. People are trying to overcharge in terms of shipping. They're trying to charge more when it comes to production. Quotes have changed. So we're very transparent. We're building this out, but we want to make sure that when we come to market with it, we can do it at a price point that we feel is it doesn't necessarily have to be an affordable price point. It has to be at a price point that works for the product you're getting. And don't get me wrong, this is not a cheap product to build. It has not been cheap to put together. We have crazy intense engineers that have worked for like Google and Cisco and Facebook and stuff, like really top-notch engineers working on this, a great factory in China. Sarah, give an update on it, but I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, maybe I'll share a bit about the Burning Man experience. So I took them to Burning Man and played with them, with people, and tried to see how people interact with these ideas of being able to have your heartbeat as part of how you communicate with people. And it was honestly really magical. First of all, I had it on my bike and people would just come up and like, wow, what is this? Taking photos. And I don't know if you've been to Burning Man, but very few people carry their photo in their hand because it's so dusty. So actually taking your camera out, taking photos with it after they tried it, bringing their friends to try it too, because it is so amazing to see that you can self-regulate. And this is what Moon is about, is really about helping people self-regulate and helping them build deeper connections. So we're building these connection games that you can play together with friends or in groups. And I am very, very excited to start putting more of these out there. We're getting to the stage very soon, in a few weeks to maybe a month and a half, where we're going to start giving them to influencers, to people who want to try them in events, because there's something very special. We keep saying it's based on the idea of the mycelium network, and it really is. The mycelium network connects fungus and trees and passes important information between them. And with Moon, we're able to do that, pass this really important sense and data that is almost blocked from us. It's subconscious for many of us. We don't know what's going on with our heart rate, right? Like if I plug Moon right now into myself, you probably see it go really, it goes really high pink when people are excited and blue when they're calm. And being able to communicate in that new way with people really facilitates deeper connections. And it was amazing to see, and I'm very excited to be able to send it to influencers in the next few weeks to maybe a month and a half. So Moon is really almost out of the door. We're very, very close. Star is a little bit more complex. It has a Bluetooth speaker, it has a cell phone charger. And here the idea is, let's build healthy relationships with our devices. You come home or you go into an event, don't hold your phone and constantly text people, right? Put it down and be present. Put it down, be present, and play some music and dance. So we're building a sort of notification system around it where you can say, hey, this is when I want to be free of my phone, and Wisdom is going to actually help you be free of your phone with voice and light interactions. So you can almost think of it as it's a very ambitious project, right? It's almost like the Amazon Alexa, but for wellness, using biofeedback, using it's networked to the internet. So we can do data visualization. We can connect people. If you've heard about this friendship lamp, where people can actually send lights to each other, here you can send your heartbeat, right? So there's a lot of potential here. And like Todd said, there's an amazing team that's building this. And yeah, everything around China is a bit more difficult than we were hoping. 2 years into the pandemic, 2.5 years into the pandemic, we were hoping it would be over, but it's not. They're still have times where they go into quarantines. So everything is a little bit slower, but we're very, very close to putting this into sales.
And to add to that, as everyone knows about me, I love making noise, and we plan on making noise once we're selling these. You know, Karim Rashid is committed to really promoting it as well. This is a structural designer of the Americas by Time Magazine. I mean, he already knows that he can push some of these because he's had people reach out. He's very excited to perhaps enter these into art shows as well. So it's a wide demographic that we do believe will like the wisdom truffle. And of course, that's up to our CMO's job. Ridley Doolittle is not on the call, but to help narrow the focus too in terms of where we market it to. So we're excited though to get them to launch. And again, as Sarah said, Moon is close, Star a little bit away. We have delayed Supernova. We talked about that in our MD&A for about 12 to 18 months. That's the gigantic, massive one. But when it comes to the two, look forward to them to coming to market and read through the MD&A to see the exact dates on where we think they can be. And if they'll change, we will change that as soon as possible on our next filing. But again, we're moving forward and very confident. And it's a great branding exercise. As I said, look, it's our logo on the face in people's homes. It's a conversation starter and it's a way to live in the moment. We might not be able to sell microdose packs everywhere in the world, but we can sell the lifestyle, which is living in the moment anywhere through the wisdom truffle. Let's get to Maggie, the next question. Again, thank you all. There's over almost 70 people. We lost a few, but like this is huge for us. So I hope you have your patience to stick around to get to your questions. And again, just thank you so much.
So we have 3 people left. Art, you are unmuted.
Oh, hi, Todd. How are you?
Good, Art.
Good. I got a few questions actually here. So the first one is, does Red Light Holland is permitted to sell to grow psilocybin mushrooms in Canada? If so, when are we going to start doing that, and why company haven't secured any supply agreements for future? The next question is about
you know what, Art, we'll meet you, come back. Let's address one at a time this time. I learned from the last. But ask it again, because it broke up on my end for a second there. Is Art still there?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, the question broke up a little bit. It was about supply. I didn't hear the first part of it for me.
Okay. Does Red Light Holland have a permit to grow psilocybin mushrooms in Canada?
Okay. So as you know, we're working with Seacrest and Shaman Pharma. And Art, I think I know you, dude. Like you're the guy who's all over Twitter, like ripping us for some reason. I don't even know if you're an investor or not.
Yes, I'm an investor.
Okay. I mean, I've talked to you in the past. I've DM'd you. I've always let you know, like, if you have concerns, like, just contact me. I'm here to give you a call. I don't know, man. It feels like you're sort of like a little bit of a disturber on Twitter, and I never understand why. Our whole mentality of Red Light Holland is transparency and openness. We don't, we're not looking for confrontation. So I'm just here to answer your questions. But yeah, I mean, Sarah. Yeah, Sarah can really update you, because I know what you do. You like to compare us to peers. And why is one company doing X and Red Light not doing that? And I think the X you might be hearing from one company isn't really in line with the knowledge we have of what's actually going on in Health Canada. So trust me, if we could do things, and if we could force the issue, or if we could get to market right now, we would. It's a slow process. And a lot of companies, I think, are probably looking for attention on them. And that's great. It's a competitive marketplace. It's a competitive world. It's a competitive stock market. But Red Light doesn't want to make promises that we can't deliver on. We want to show this slow, patient play. So I'll let Sarah answer the question as to what's going on with the special access program.
Todd, it's not regarding personal access. Does the company have a permit to grow psilocybin mushrooms in Canada?
Yeah. Okay. Sarah, I think she's muted. Maggie just has to unmute Sarah.
Yeah. Okay, so no, we do not have a license to grow psilocybin mushrooms in Canada. Seacrest Labs, our partner, has a agreement with Health Canada. They're the part of the supply chain. They're one of the few labs and companies that are allowed to supply to the special access program. However, and I did say this before, Health Canada came out with a very clear letter to suppliers and manufacturers saying any type of natural product will not get into the hands of patients. It will not get into anybody's hands unless you can clinically prove that it is as good as a synthetic molecule, right? So anybody who is now getting access from the special access program, and there's actually very few of them. It's a big issue. the government is very slow to respond. A lot of people are getting refusals because it's a lot of documentations for the doctor to actually prove that this specific case can benefit from psilocybin. None of them have got naturally occurring products, right? We have an amazing farm in the Netherlands. It's very easy to get import license. That has not been an issue for us, right? Thanks to Seacrest and their connections and their ability. So we can very easily get psilocybin natural products into Canada, where we can process and test them and create product development. So I think it's quite a smart strategy not to invest in another farm in Canada that has nowhere to currently sell to and nothing to do with these mushrooms. And I know some companies are coming out there with like branded boxes and all these quite hype that I'm hoping won't get a backlash from the government. You know, we need to be really careful, because if the government thinks people are doing things not according to regulations, they might even shut down the special access program, which is anyway so limited. So that's sort of our philosophy, is really utilize our assets in the Netherlands, utilize our partners, Seacrest Labs, and utilize our connections to the government, but not make hype and not spend money where we have no way of actually doing anything with that product.
Yeah, Sarah nailed that, Art, where back to cash is king. So for us just to go and then build a GMP facility right now, which would cost multiples of millions of dollars in Canada to grow X amount of magic mushrooms with no ability to sell them, or maybe one patient here for a special access if it got approved through a clinical trial, is not what we think is a smart business decision and doesn't represent shareholder value, in our opinion. Down the road, if there's a much bigger market opening up, if we're learning that thousands of people are allowed access to psilocybin and magic mushrooms, yeah, would we look to maybe have discussions about pulling a trigger on doing something like that, or maybe partnering with individuals who do? Yeah, right now there's just not a big enough market for it. We want to preserve our capital, and back to that revenue generation and the foundation, we call it the mushroom train. Get into real mushroom farming. What is happening at AEM in New Brunswick, what hopefully will be happening at AEM in Peterborough as we look to start to build this facility out there, that we know will equate to dollars coming into Red Light Holland. You talk about sustainability, you talk about having a long run rate. That's what Red Light Holland is focused on, not just the 1 or 2 patients that are getting it right now monthly. We would love to see that. We would love to see that increase tenfold, 100-fold for sure. Right now, we don't think it's going to. So we will try to time these projects as we learn more through government initiatives. And in the meantime, we'll focus on our psychedelic core focus in the Netherlands, brick and mortar shops, our farm, our distribution company, and of course, the mushroom supply and mushroom production here in Canada. But again, the other thing that's great too, we are setting up infrastructure. So through mushroom farming, you could convert your different farms and facilities to GMP through the proper channels eventually. So maybe one day we have a farm in Peterborough that we could add a little bit more of infrastructure, security, that type of stuff to have it be a psilocybin producing farm. But right now we just don't see the need to.
One more thing, Todd, I'd like to add is Oregon, right? This is a market that we know is going to open at the beginning of next year. They're going to be giving out licenses, and this is a focus of the company. We have a partner there that is doing all the legwork around the regulations, all the preparations, Shunji, around creating a farm there, because that is somewhere where we do see the door opening very soon. We're still following, there's just draft rules. They haven't come out with the exact regulations yet. So even there, and there have been mistakes done there from other companies buying property in places that actually opted out of the regulations, right? They're allowing specific places to decide for themselves, like specific counties. So once again, we're being very careful. We're not putting in a lot of cash, but we are putting our ears to the ground and preparing for when the door opens.
There's actually a story, I won't say which company, but bought land to do a retreat in Oregon, and that's one of the counties that's pulling out of the Measure 109. They don't want
probably
to, yeah.
Probably.
So it's a private company, but so now they're sitting with land with that potentially they can't even do anything with. So this is again why we are being very patient. But it's a great question, Art. Jed, you had others, Art? I think Maggie can unmute you.
I got actually a follow-up question on that. Thank you for clearing that up, Todd. So the other question is, Is the company planning just to sell branded truffles to I guess recreational space, or it's planning to extract psilocybin from the mushrooms and sell it at the large scale to facilities? Like, because from there you're going to be getting your pill that in the future, is it going to be more prescription model pill, or it's going to be sold to wellness center that anyone can get over the counter?
Sarah? Unmute, Sarah.
Yeah. So we are able to do both, right? So psilocybin is psilocybin. What we need to do is follow the regulations. For instance, in Oregon is not going down the route of a medical model, which, personally, and also as a company, we think that's great, because a lot of people won't want to get a prescription. In the US, I don't know where you're from, Art, but so many people don't even have health insurance, don't have access to getting prescriptions of any kind. So being able to sell it through facilities in Oregon is definitely one route. And with Seacrest, we're also working on extraction. You can read our report. We've done extractions. We've done measurements of our doses. We know how much psilocybin and psilocin is in our truffles. And with that, we are speaking to a lot of places around the world that are wanting to do either clinical trials or medical models, and seeing how we can get our product to there. But again, everything is a long process. Everything requires government's approval. So we don't jump the gun and make these big announcements until we do, right? Until we actually get product to a place and have a collaboration.
Anything else, Art?
Yeah, so last question. I know you closely guys working with CC Crest, right? And Red Light Holland has over 350 million shares, I believe. And on the last annual meeting, Red Light Holland mentioned that, approved the reverse split for the company when they will be entering to larger exchange. So can we assume that the merger with a possible partner and reverse split will happen? And when will that happen? Thank you.
No, definitely there's no assumptions to be made that a merger will happen. That was a decision while we were doing a shareholder vote, just to see if there was ever a potential of a merger. For instance, we, like you said, have over 350 million shares. If there ever was a merger with another company of that many shares, that might be a good opportunity for a reverse split. If there was a potential to uplist on the NASDAQ, which, by the way, I don't think there is, because we deal with recreational psilocybin, that might be an opportunity for a reverse split to get your share price higher, so you could list on that exchange. But in the interim, like, there have been no management discussions, and I mean, we've been doing many management discussions, especially over the last few days. Sarah got back. David had a little bit of break from filing our year end and our Q1. We basically work 24/7, this entire team. Of all the discussions that this team has had together, including our board of directors, literally, other than that vote that we did for the AGM, there has never been a discussion of a reverse split. Maybe one day, if there is a merger that is not being talked about right now, for the record, maybe then it would happen. I will always leave that little piece of a window open. But Art, to answer your question, no. Again, I told people I would never go on the forums, or don't bother doing it. I went on the forums recently. It amazes me how many people are wasting time right now, currently, talking about a reverse split. There have not been one discussions, to reiterate that. If there's ever a potential merger, maybe we'll have that conversation. As of now, it's not happening.
Okay, I'm going to unmute Todd. You are the next person with a question.
I'm asking a question to myself.
Yeah, good luck.
It's a great name. Fantastic name. Had it all my life. Now, I think the previous questions are a good segue into this. I'd like to understand your current thinking on Oregon, because I know you were entered directly. I'm just making sure I understand this. And then you pivoted a little bit to helping to support local merchants or growers. And the reason for my question is I just recently learned that the rules would actually allow for what could be termed microdosing cafe, with some stipulations, like they'd have to remain there for, I believe, an hour. So if I have that all correct, I'm just wondering what your current thinking is. I was a bit surprised by the microdosing cafe. Excited would probably be a better term for it.
Yeah, Todd, I'll get to Sarah in a moment, but first off, I actually want to congratulate Sarah. Whether it was directly or indirectly, there's no actual concrete proof of that yet. we believe, or at least I believe, in my opinion, that through Sarah's initiative, speaking with the authorities who are actually writing Measure 109, dealing with senators, dealing with Mason Marks, dealing with individuals directly, showing them modeling about the microdosing centers, showing them some of the data that we've received over in the Netherlands through our iMicro app and what's happening with the microdosing there, and also talking about some of the other data collection in terms of what the market wants in Oregon, in terms of it's not just hero doses, it's not just psychedelic therapy, it's actually microdosing daily and doing it through a center. I think we directly influence that. I can't prove that, but I can tell you that Sarah was very active in making sure that that was part of what our presentations were, and I applaud her for doing it because it definitely got on people's radar. I don't know if it's actually a part of Measure 109 right now, but it is being talked about, which is huge for the company, we believe, because this is our model. Sarah, maybe you can add to that.
I could explain. Yeah. So again, these are draft rules. Nothing is yet of certain. They have come out with draft rules really a few days ago in September. And there's going to be a webinar later today by Emerge Law Group that we're very close with, that's going to really go into the nitty-gritty details of all the regulations. If you want to join, I can post the link in the chat. What we are seeing, which is yes, I think they're listening. Let's put it this way. The people I've been talking to in the OHA, sending our reports from, we've been showing models in the Netherlands of doing mini to micro doses. So also something that is, a little bit into the towards exactly the cutoff that they were putting, which is 5 milligrams of psilocybin. And we're seeing that they have come out with draft rules that are different for these lower doses and the higher doses. And that's amazing. That was not in the original measure. That is, to be honest, when they started out, not what they wanted to even deal with. But they heard us. There was a lot of support, not only from Red Light Holland, but a lot of people in Oregon really coming forward and saying microdosing is really beneficial for them. And yes, we're very excited to see how we can integrate with that. Now, the approach around supporting locals, part of it is a big part of the measure is equity, right? We are a big company compared to local growers. We have finances and we want to build synergies. This is, the mushroom learning. We want to build synergies where we can support people that have been there their whole life, that have their knowledge and know the community. Us coming in, I'm from the US, but not from Oregon, and the rest of the company is Canadian or in the Netherlands. That's not how ethical business really I would like it to be done. So we're really finding very unique individuals that have that community connection, have that knowledge, and lifting their voices and helping them build the future together with us. And it's going to be, there's still, I don't really want to go into every nitty bitty detail of the draft rules right now, but there's still some open questions around sizes of group, around backups. They have some regulation there that says, hey, if you're in a group setting and you want to switch and do a private session, you should be allowed. That's not really clear about the timeline. So we're just following very, very closely. And I can't make any, promises or anything until the regulations come out.
Sarah, I just want to add, we started we dissolved another agreement. We started the Red Light Set Go program in Oregon. And, what is always inspiring to me, and it's not to get too emotional here. I know people want to hear numbers and business and all this stuff, but the amount of people that reach out to me, to Sarah through our message system on our redlight.co website, literally we get weekly a plethora of requests for people to work for the company, to help out in Oregon. I'm forwarding them to Sarah. I'm forwarding them to David, junior accountants. People want to be a part of this movement. They're recognizing what Red Light Holland stands for and what we're achieving, and how we're careful in our foundation and our growth and what we're aiming to do. And we talked about it earlier: disrupt big pharma, provide access responsibly with education. And where do you see yourself 10 years from now? Do you see yourself perhaps using microdosing or going for therapeutic sessions and getting a hero dose and having guided therapy to help you. Well, I think a lot of people are starting to think that way, that like, why isn't this happening now? And people want to be a part of the red light mission. So in Oregon, we've really structured it very well. And part of the rules too, if you were to be a part of a Measure 109, when it eventually gets through with the regulations, they want Oregonian residents running the companies. They don't want big conglomerates like us. Yes. Could we partner? Could we fund? Could we help grow with? Yes, that's definitely the intention. So we believe that our mission right now in Oregon is a really good one, and showing them data, which we can collect from the Netherlands, has been something that we feel has been substantial in obviously shaping what these regulations could look like down the road. So it's very exciting for us.
And I did a road trip recently. I don't know if you know, it's documented a lot of it on my Twitter. And honestly, it was amazing to just, I went into grassroots movements and they knew the name. They knew who we were. They were like, oh, wow, yeah. And there's a lot of support because we are, as far as I know, the only publicly traded company that is supporting accessibility and supporting legalization and not trying to sort of control the industry in a pharmaceutical way. So there was really a lot of support from the people in Oregon.
Were there any other questions, Todd? I don't know if we lost Todd. He's on mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I kind of muted myself. I have some background noise with the family here, but no, I thank you. I appreciate it. And, you know, good luck with everything.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the support. Maggie, let's other hands are raised. Let's get some. Thank you all. Honestly, this is I love it. I love the fact that we have so many people here. It's really quite impressive. And if you look at small cap companies, this is very rare. It's an anomaly that you get this kind of support through a Q&A. So thank you all for sticking it out. It's been quite some time, but we'll keep going.
I've unmuted Greg. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Hey, Todd. Two questions. One, I'm curious to know, has there been studies done on the toxicity of psilocybin mushrooms, and you know, what would be the effects of someone who has taken too much, for instance, from a poisoning aspect, in which case my thinking here is that if the toxicity is extremely low, is there a path there for easier legalization? Mainly, again, that if something's not poisonous, why would it be illegal? And the other question that I have is, I don't know if you've heard the recent SSRI study for the serotonin, for the antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications, that the serotonin inhibitors or whatever, the SSRI medications have been found to be potentially ineffective, which means there's been decades of pharmaceutical medication use and prescriptions being given to people who have now been found that didn't actually help.
I'm going to pass it to Sarah in a moment. I did hear that study. What I also hear, and I've been hearing it for a couple of years, is doctors personally calling me and doctors saying, you know, behind the scenes, I would love one day to get involved in psychedelic therapy. We're excited to learn more about it, but we know that SSRIs aren't working. We know that we're prescribing these things and we're seeing ill effects. And we're seeing worsening effects sometimes. And a lot of it is trial and error. These are doctors calling me. You know, I don't have a lot of academia behind me, but I got my ear to the street and I'm a people person, and people reach out to me because of the mission that we're on. And you know, I think we all know people very sadly who have tried SSRIs and it hasn't helped. And there's a lot of trauma in people's lives, and it's not just end of life trauma. It's not just post-traumatic stress disorder trauma. You know, individuals have trauma all over the place. And this is what we're trying to do. So, and by the way, I don't want to take away anything from the most serious of traumas, by the way, either. But, you know, this is about helping people because we're all going through something. Everybody's got something. Everybody's got something in their family. And when it comes to toxicity, definitely that's the great part about getting the psilocybin import licenses from Health Canada to work with Seacrest and to work with Shimon Pharma. We've done studies already. We're further testing when it comes to pesticides and metals and learning about dosages and learning about psilocybin and psilocin content. And Sarah could expand on that. But yeah, this is exactly what we're doing, is learning more about the product and learning more about the product that should be issued to people down the road. And while we're doing it in the Netherlands now in a very legal framework, we're doing it carefully in terms of support systems in place, telecounseling support, education, VR headsets to learn how it connects to 5-HT2A receptors. Again, about education, because we can provide that now. We can provide you with what you are doing to understand it, not just to go and take too much and then experience what may be what's called a bad trip. I'm sure Sarah can eventually get into the idea that it's not poisonous, but maybe it's a good time to pass it to Sarah now to answer the first part of your question.
Yeah, there's
but we're very proud of what
toxicity.
Red Lights measures in that we're putting in process here.
There's very low toxicity. There's been a lot of research around that. Everybody that's sitting on these government work groups knows this, right? Getting that information from these relatively small work groups into the whole of the government that needs to approve these things, that's a process. That's part of why in Washington, we have a lobbyist that's working with this grassroots organization, PMAW, making sure with Akwasi, our new advisor, to really come out with bullet points to help show the wider government, not only that this is not toxic, but this is extremely beneficial to very, very large groups of people. Now, for the SSRI question, I think we should be really careful, because there might be, and quite likely be, some groups of people that this is beneficial for them for some amount of time.
For sure.
Things that you do with SSRIs can sometimes build tolerance. It loses effectiveness. Some people, it doesn't work at all from the beginning. But I just don't want to discourage anybody. If you're on an SSRI and you think it helps you, that's good. Do what you think helps you. And I don't think we should come out and say, stop SSRIs. There has also been research that it is actually absolutely fine to do SSRIs and psychedelics together. There was some concerns about that, but there's a body of growing research that's showing that there should not be any adverse effects of combining SSRIs. Lithium, on the other hand, I would recommend do not combine, as well as specific other things. If you're on, please consult a doctor. But somebody is showing
Who's screen sharing? Yeah, that's not me.
We've been Zoom hacked. We'll see what this is. So just to sort of finish this out, I think psilocybin can probably help a lot of people that SSRIs have not helped them. I think microdosing might help a lot of people that SSRIs have not helped them. And there's definitely enough body of research that is starting to show, when I started as a sort of a consultant, a year and a half ago, there was no microdosing research out there that looked at the brain. We didn't know. And I'm very, honest with Todd, and I'm very scientific. I'm like, until we see what's going on in the brain, I don't know. But right now, there's already a body of research that looks at your brain waves and is seeing what microdosing is doing to the brain waves. And it indicates we're seeing lower, the alpha waves are getting lower. So very similar to what we see in higher doses, but to a lesser degree, meaning microdosing does have an effect on the brain. For me, that's a closed question. Anybody that keeps saying, oh, it's a placebo, it's a placebo. We're seeing the same effect of, very trained meditators have the same effect on their brainwaves. We're seeing that when people take microdosing. Good luck making that a placebo. That's really a low level thing.
I do want to add, the company can never make medical claims, and that's one of the things, but we also are always supportive of anybody's options, right? So while my, father's older friend might believe in SSRIs for himself or his children, there is a whole generation of people that believe in naturally occurring products could potentially help people. And that's what we stand for, to learning more, to working carefully, like I always say, and proving out hopeful, positive benefits. And that's Red Light's entire mission. The other thing is emotional Todd now, forget about corporate Todd, and take off, this hat and put on my, my fun hat. I guess I'm always wearing a fun hat. Anecdotally, I microdose our product. It works. It works for me. So the placebo stuff is almost a joke to me. I know Sarah can talk about it on a science level, but I can talk about it on a friendship level. I can talk about it on people I know who use it level, which are literally hundreds of people now who will tell you that microdosing works for them. The placebo stuff, I don't buy. I think that people are putting out certain articles at times. Again, this is all hearsay, but people are worried about this disruption of naturally occurring products. I mean, High Times Magazine just put out an article about cannabis, how it's disrupting the big pharma industry by billions of dollars a year. And that just came out about a week ago. If you go to High Times, you can see that. And I'm sure people are assuming that that will happen with psychedelics as well. So, you know, for me, it's about learning more about this to prove out the positive benefits, and Red Light really focusing on that as a core mission of ours. And, you know, I'm getting a little bit long-winded here, but if you're in a legal framework like the Netherlands, I would love to hear from you if microdosing ever did work for you. And I'm sure there's many of you who've done it illicitly who would agree that it has helped you. The other thing I want to vent about, and I'm going to stop it here after this one, is the hypocrisy that we experience. I mean, Sarah and I were at a conference last year. We're not going back to the conference this year because it's just a bunch of talking heads, a lot of biotech people. And again, I'm not crapping on anybody's business model, okay? If they're doing it authentically and if they're looking for true drug discovery and they're looking truly to help people, that's great. But don't come down on Red Light Holland, and don't come down on other companies who believe in naturally occurring products that can help people. Because I can tell you this, if you go to those parties after these conferences and these events at nightclubs and stuff, what's everybody doing? They're bringing out their illegal magic mushroom pills or magic mushroom natural magic. And when I say everybody, like 90% of these people who are working for these drug discovery biotech companies. And I don't mind saying that right now because I hate hypocrisy. And we are fighting for that fight for people to be able to use it and do it carefully with that corporate governance and being self-regulated and testing and in legal frameworks and paying copious amounts of legal bills and going through audits and everything for that fight for the people. But for them then to go and sort of look down on us, and it almost gives them an elitist attitude. So wait, the regular common person can't have affordable, equitable access. You can say that naturally occurring products don't work, and you're fighting for a biotech and drug discovery method and to patent or tweak a molecule so you can patent it. Well, guess what? That means you're an elitist if you can use it and others can't. And we do not stand for that. We're for the people. And this is why we're in this fight together. I had to get that off my chest. Thank you very much.
I'm going to unmute iPad number
Yeah.
2.
Thanks.
You can go ahead and ask your question.
iPad number 2, unmuted.
Hi, Todd. Can you hear me?
I got you now. Thank you.
Todd, my name's Curtis Rind. I'm a police officer in Edmonton, 25-year veteran. For years, a lot of us have been dealing with the mental health issues on the street, and not to mention our own PTSD that our members do experience. I was so excited to come across your company. I just wanted to ask you, is there any appetite or any way for you to get your messaging out to the Association of Chiefs of Police Canada?
Yeah, I mean, first off, thank you also for your service and doing what you do. Politically, I could get into what I feel about defund the police.
You know, I could go on and on about it too, but basically the brunt of my question comes from 25 years of seeing the horrific mental health crisis that we've fallen into with homelessness and marginalized people, and having to deal with them in their worst moments. People are people, and they're wonderful. To have to deal with somebody who has mixed benzodiazepines and stimulants, alcohol, and not to mention whatever they're picking up on the street that they don't know what they're taking, and having to deal with that. The advent of you folks putting together this whole model of trying to help through a natural process, and I can imagine it's a David and Goliath battle for you. I'm in it for the long haul. It's like being able to donate to charity, but to actually maybe have an outcome financially for me way down the road. I don't care if everything falls apart and I lose all my money, because I believe in what you guys are doing. And I have a child with anxiety, and she is doing wonderful microdosing psilocybin. She's doing fantastic. I have military. I did 11 years in the military before police. I have Afghan veteran friends who are exploring now other treatments, ayahuasca, LSD, MDMA, and they are all doing so much better than where they were at. I know I have my own struggles after 25 years, but I was just wondering, like, when you talk about hypocrisy, the one thing that really upset us is we were talking about legalizing cannabis years ago as police officers. We were sick and tired of putting people in front of the courts for just marginal use or small possession of it. But to have a guy like the old chief of Toronto, Julian Fantino, in one breath comparing legalizing weed to legalizing murder, and then he becomes, he wants to cannabis to be legalized so that he can get into the business side of things later on. That kind of stuff just drives me nuts. So I was just wondering, with the messaging platform that the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police has, any type of research that you can shovel their way. I know from my municipality, I would be able to approach our chief and say, hey, listen, like, this is what's going on. This is the undercurrent of and the tide of what's happening with mental health. And I think it's something we should support, or at least look at supporting down the road once the research is in. And anyway, that was just my question. I'm sorry to be so long-winded. I'm just so excited about you guys. I sent you a long email about 2 years ago, and just wished you all the best. And just to hear you speak now in public like this, your pragmatic and empathetic approach, your own experience, your guys' message of intention and environment and responsibility. I'm thrilled, and I'm telling you, I'm with you guys all the way. I'm your cheerleader. All the best. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you very much. I think first and foremost, yeah, we would love to have any conversations we could with the Chief of Police Association. So if there's any follow-up, if you want to email me, todd@redlight.co or maggie@redlight.co to set up some sort of meeting that we can have these discussions. We'd be glad to share the research that we've done, the data that we've collected, and the further research that we plan on doing. So definitely we would love to explore that. And a quick little story here, if you don't mind. We have an amazing advocacy lawyer in the Netherlands, an incredible lawyer. I mean, he's one of the most well-known lawyers in the country, in the Netherlands, and probably even across Europe for psychedelic legalization and cannabis as well. He was a former police officer, and he saw very similar things that you just spoke of, working in tough and difficult neighborhoods and communities, and seeing very sadly what the types of drugs and overdoses was having the effect on people's mental health, and very sadly even deaths. And he hated the approach. He did hate the approach from how police officers who didn't want to go and arrest these people or didn't want to find these people, but rather help these people. They wanted to provide education. Portugal years ago, I think, did it best, where they decriminalized all drugs, and they used, so it might be a bit conjectural, but essentially they used 90% of funds that used to be used for policing and arrests and jails, and then 10% for education and learning and rehabilitation. They reversed that when it came to decriminalization, where they used maybe 10% for policing and doing stuff that where you'd have to arrest people, but 90% came to education, rehab, and help. And that's obviously one of the things that we love from progressive police officers. And yes, so we would love to have that conversation in the future. And thank you so much for all your support. I got chills. I actually have a tear in my right eye. It means a lot. So thank you so much. Maggie, let's move on to another question.
Okay, I had someone named Lance who was unable to raise their hand. Lance, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now.
Hi, Lance.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just gotta say, Holland, I love the hats.
You love the hats. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, I'm a brander at the end of the day, right? So I
The
thank
hats
you
are
for
awesome.
that. Yeah. Go to, you can order them at imicrodose.ca.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know what? because of all this great shareholder support, I'm going to do a, if people want to support the merch, I'm going to reach out to our team. I don't know when I can accomplish this in the next day or two, maybe by early next week. We'll do a discount on a lot of the merch that we have just for all this
that
great
is
support.
awesome.
Yeah, and we have some plans in the future too to really work on the Free the Magic campaign. And we think the Free the Magic really speaks to more of not just branding our company or not just branding Maca or iMicrodose products, but really representing what this movement stands for.
Yeah.
And we're really excited for the Free the Magic. So thanks, Lance. That's great.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
That dude's awesome.
Okay, I'm unmuting Todd again for another question.
Okay.
Yeah, more of a comment. I agree with you. I really hate it when people refer to microdosing as just a placebo effect. It's been, so I really perked up when you talked about that. If you haven't seen this, Business Trip did a 3-part microdosing podcast. In part 3, I know it's a slightly different route than you guys are taking, but Diamond Therapeutics went through the FDA trials on microdosing, and they talk extensively about how they successfully blinded for the placebo effect. So if you haven't seen that yet, that kind of put it to rest for me. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah,
Thanks,
there's
Todd.
been a few placebo-controlled trials. The confusion, I think, is coming from people referring to microdosing as subperceptual. It's not subperceptual. We feel it, right? And then it becomes, the data gets all muddled up because people are, a lot of the times, even when you blind them, they are able to unblind and guess correctly. And that's what's sort of causing the data to look sort of murky. And Fadiman, who was actually the one who coined the term subperceptual, we talked and he also commented about this, that this was a big mistake of his. And now researchers are trying to move into saying, no, it's not subperceptual, it's subhallucinogenic. We're creating a dose, it does have an effect on us, we feel it, but we can function. We can work, we can take care of our kids, we can do basically everything just with a little bit more energy, optimism, and focus, however it helps different people. Hashtag no medical claims.
Maggie, I think we have a few more hands raised and then we can get to the chats and more questions. If everyone wants to stick around, I'll stick around. I still got 41% on my computer because I got my iPhone chargers charging the wisdom, lighting up the wisdom truffles.
Okay, I'm just asking Joseph to unmute. I think they're the last one with the hand raise.
So hold on, can you hear me?
Yes, Joseph, we got you.
Okay, so honestly, I really love your fridge. No, I'm being serious. No, I'm being serious right now. Your fridge is beautiful. Wait,
oh, thank you. Okay.
Is that a fridge? All right, dude. All right.
Cheers, man. It's like an old radio show all of a sudden. Are there any other questions raised? And oh, Sam, it looks like Sam has his virtual hand up.
Thanks, Todd. A quick question around, I know this has been a long time, but the Cressel deal that didn't pan out, that was a shock. And then obviously 18 months, you had mentioned that 18 months, the team pivoted towards functional mushrooms. Is there any other potential pivots that might happen down the pipeline? For example, MDMA has been hugely talked about. Is there a chance that Red Light Holland might pivot into other psychedelics? I know with Mirror Life Sciences, there are research going into other psychedelic compounds. So is MDMA potentially a focus of yours, seeing how there has been talks about potentially it being legalized for therapeutic use in 2023?
So, thank you, Sam. I'll address first off the pivoting stuff. So, it's interesting being the CEO of a publicly traded company with incredible shareholder support and working on behalf of all shareholders, and of course, answering to a board of directors. I do have a mind, though, that is very creative. And sometimes certain things pop up or an opportunity gets presented to me that I never thought of before, that all of a sudden I go, wow, maybe there could be a little bit of a pivot here. Maybe this does fit and align with what Red Light's core values are and with the mission. And ultimately, all of it comes down to revenue generation and increasing shareholder value. So I can never rule out pivots because my mind often works that way, and a new idea will just pop in. And even though today I'll say, no, I don't think we're going to consider any other sort of merger, and maybe someone calls me at 5:01 today, I'm like, oh my God, this is too good to be true. So I always leave everything open. I'm a very optimistic individual. I rarely look back at anything in life. So I haven't looked back since that merger broke after that day. I mean, it was great. You saw on our MD&A, we got $400,000. That was disclosed from that process. And listen, we're excited about what Red Light is doing. We're doing a lot right now, and there is a message that we're trying to clarify here through the Q&A and that triangular approach, which we led with, which was we want shareholders to really understand what's the wisdom truffle, what's the farming element, what's the Netherlands element, what's going on with Mira, where else can we be, how are we doing this with Canada and Seacrest, and what's going on in Oregon, and we're clarifying that today. And quite candidly, as an idea guy, and I know my strengths, right? It's creating great ideas that we have really incredible team of people delivering on. And I'm so grateful for the Red Light team. My point being is we're taking a little bit of a work backwards approach right now. And that's one of the things management has had very open-ended conversations on, is let's ensure that the infrastructure is in place for all these great ideas now that we've delivered on. For instance, owning smart shops, rebranding to Wellness Worlds down the road, working towards maybe getting other brick and mortar retail shops, which we've disclosed, following through on the Wiz Khalifa and Mr. Cap's brand. One of the great things we are talking about behind the scenes, and it's not material information, it's just sort of creative information, is that we would love to focus on women more. And Sarah's got some incredible ideas on how we focus on a women-backed brand with some science behind it to focus on women. So, that's one of the things that we're looking to do. But Red Light's got a lot of capital and we got a lot of great people. And I want to work backwards to figure out what holes we need to put into place in terms of infrastructure. We don't even have a chief operating officer right now, is the truth, a COO. So maybe that might come down the road. Individuals in the Netherlands, like a GM of the smart shops, as we collect, hopefully, maybe potentially more of them. So little holes to work backwards. And then, yes, down the road, could there be a merger? As I said earlier, a pivot could always happen, but we really are concentrating on growing the business we have now.
Okay, I'm going to unmute Kim's iPad.
Hi, Kim. Kim, it looks like you're still muted. I'm not sure if it's on your end.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Thank you, yes.
Okay, I'm not used to this Zoom thing. I apologize.
I hate Zoom, by the way. You can ask anyone on my team. We do so many Zoom calls. I'm like, just pick up the phone, call people. It's enough like structure. You don't have to be on camera, walk around, pace, enough sitting, get energy flowing. Like, I get it. Don't worry. Zoom, it's enough.
It took me all this time to figure out how to put my hand up. So forgive me. First of all, I just want to thank you guys for everything that you're doing. I've been a long-term supporter, a long-term investor, and every cent I get, I put it towards Red Light Holland, both TRIP and TRIPP, or TRUF, I'm sorry, in the US. Everything I can do, I want to support you guys. I think you're making amazing headway. I think that people are in need of you. And I just want to say how much I support you guys and love everything you're doing. And I think if there's anyone out there with anything that's not pleasant to say, stay out of it and enjoy the ride, enjoy the trip, because it's going to be an amazing one. And so far it has been. And keep up the great work. I don't really have a question. I guess I just want to send my support and love to you guys. Keep doing what you're doing, because I got your back. I think a lot of people have your back. What you're doing is absolutely amazing. Thank you.
I really appreciate that. There's a quote from Jay-Z, and he says, you got to build with somebody who wants it as bad as you do. And a power couple is two hustlers, not a hustler and a leech. And he's talking about, of course, his wife, who's an amazing hustler and an amazing business entrepreneur and incredible performer, Beyonce. And I look at our relationship with shareholders the same way. You have management and a board of directors who are working as hard as we can, and to have that kind of shareholder support behind us, we're trying to work together here and do this for obviously everyone's benefit and grow a great company. And we've proven in our short tenure so far, with quarter over quarter growth, with being cautious, with our spend and focused on that revenue generation, that, we want to be sustainable. We have a long run rate, and a lot of companies in this sector cannot say that. And it's not a great time in the world right now to raise capital. So a lot of companies who do need money, I can assure you, are desperately trying to seek it. And that's what we're most proud of too, is doing this careful build and doing it carefully with others who want to build with us. So thank you again for that.
Also, it's great hearing women investors. I'm excited by that.
There's a question in the chat here, Todd, just follow up about Wiz Khalifa. They're wondering if we discussed any specific references to the expected ROI when sales in the US may be expected, and at what volume for Mr. Cap.
Great. Yeah. And Maggie, for some reason, I can't find my Zoom screen now. So yeah, please, after we'll read through all the questions. Yeah, with Wiz, again, we're doing the brand build now. We brought on 2 advisors. They're actually work with Wiz very closely on Khalifa Kush. One is named DJ Saul. The other is Tim Hunkel. And they're amazing. I mean, these are very close friends of Wiz Khalifa. I joke, we did a couple of Zoom meetings with Wiz, and Wiz was like one day, topless, doing the meeting with us. It blew my mind. And I asked him, like, do you mind if I post a picture? I obviously want people to see, how engaged you are, and we're working together. And he goes, yeah, I look buff. Like, I love this, for sure. Post a picture. So when it comes to the question, we're doing the branding now, and we want to nail this right. Like, this is a really big opportunity. When you have an individual who wants to get across that educational, responsible use message about affordable and equitable access, and wants to work about, promoting the magic of the magic mushrooms the right way, you make sure you do the brand right and the brand build right. So we're working on that now. I hope to be able to share some of that brand build with all of the public soon. And we've targeted the end of this year to have products out. That's what we're trying to rush towards. September's come quick. They're, like we've talked about, different packaging and supply chain issues and stuff. But, one thing I can say with the home grow kits that we're working on for Wiz Khalifa while the branding's going on, we have great farmers in our company through AEM and through Happy Caps. We've spoken to other potential farmers for supply and production. And yeah, we're really intrigued. We've even discussed very openly in the MDNA how we're in discussions in due diligence with another mushroom farm in the Netherlands. So for my line of thinking, I'm always thinking about production and supply while we build, learn, and apply what we're doing in the Netherlands to others to grow markets. To, we're learning from Happy Caps. How do we do that with Mr. Caps? What's been successful on Amazon? What's been successful from online sales through the website? What products are doing better than others? What are getting better reviews than others? So this is all the point with Mr. Cap. And we do plan on being very aggressive, though, I can tell you, in bringing the products to market and also marketing those products that we do bring to market. We plan on definitely marketing products through Wiz Khalifa, and also using and utilizing Wiz Khalifa's entire reach. I think I missed the question about the MDMA, by the way. Someone asked about that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other compounds and different interesting psychedelics that, yeah, I think it's sort of on the back burner. That red light always is just, through Sarah, we're always exploring, but nothing, again, we're focusing on the core that we have going on now.
Okay, I have a question in the chat regarding the Smart Shop acquisitions. Specifically, what capital is planned to be spent on renovating, and if there is a longer term plan to expand brick or mortar in the Netherlands, should the revenue provide lucrative?
Yeah, I mean, I love retail shops. Our chairman of our board, Brad Lamb, loves retail. Obviously, he's in the real estate business and a developer. We think that people want to get out. We believe people want connection. We believe people want to learn about certain products and wellness products through a store clerk or through an educational experience in that shop, not just hear about something through a chat forum or Twitter. So yeah, we're going to learn and apply. And can we apply to other smart shops? Yeah. Maybe we start our own. Maybe there's other acquisitions to be made. In the interim, we want to make sure that we're doing these two right in Oss and Utrecht. We have some great employees there, young employees that are very knowledgeable, especially when it comes to magic truffles. Again, they don't make any claims, but they can talk about other people's experiences and talk about how carefully we want to sell these products. That's most important. So yeah, we love brick and mortar. down the road, could there be others? I would say yes, there could be. And when it comes to the modern sort of new wellness world approach, I'd like to see it happen, hopefully in the next few months. But we're trying to determine the best time to do it, because you don't want to lose that Christmas rush of tourism too. So we'll have further updates when it comes to rebranding to Wellness World down the road. But definitely a more modern approach and a more modern looking wellness store is our key.
Okay, I have a phone number with their hand raised, so I'm going to unmute them.
Someone 647 etc. You is that unmuted?
I believe they have to select it on their end as well.
Okay.
For now in the chat, someone has asked, speaking of mergers, would it make sense to merge with a company a similar Canadian company that has Health Canada licenses and licensed facilities? I think this would now possibly complete being vertically integrated. And then they just sent support for Red Light and thanked you for answering all the questions, Todd.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you. Again, we're not talking about any big mergers right now. We are aware of what our peers are doing. We're confident in Red Light's direction right now. As I said earlier, could there be a pivot if the pivot felt right and something popped up on my radar? Yeah, there could always be that pivot. Of course, you'd have to get in certain big situations, go through the proper channels and a circular, et cetera, and board approval first. But, in the interim, we're just really, really pleased with our growth and really pleased with our patient play, because there's just not a huge market, especially in Canada right now, for psilocybin. So we don't have to, worry or panic this second if we're not doing that in terms of a controlled dealer's license, et cetera. And we have great partners in Seacrest Labs who can help test our products in the interim and is a part of that special access program and one of the 16 companies that could supply.
Okay, I believe that the person on the phone is now unmuted if you'd like to ask your question.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, Todd. How's it going? I enjoy the company. I've been a long-time supporter. I like all your interviews, and you always come with good swag and good facial hair. I was just going to ask a question about.
Am I allowed cracking a beer yet, though?
Yeah, you can go ahead and crack a beer, whatever you want, man. I'm ready deep after work.
Sorry to interrupt.
But no problem. I just want to know. I was reading your last financial report, and I just wanted to know if you could, if you were allowed to, shed some clarity or transparency on the Radix motion, something with I think it was a couple of $1 million. I don't know if it's a write down or something like that. I gotta double check. But I just want to know if you could just elaborate on those numbers a bit, if you could.
Yeah, I'm actually going to pass this to David Ascott, our CFO. And it is a very good question, actually, that you ask. And I'll pass it over to David right now.
Okay, so specifically, are you asking the reasons for the write down in the goodwill and intangible asset value? I just want to make sure I'm understanding the question correctly.
I think they're on mute again, Maggie. We might need to unmute that phone number and then that.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. I'm just waiting for it on their end. Yep.
Okay, he's unmuted now.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just wondering. Yeah, exactly. If you could just explain it and just exactly what you said, why, and just talk about it a bit. That's all.
Yeah. Okay, not a problem. Just wanted to make sure I started off on the right foot here. So we prepare our financial statements under international financial reporting standards. Under those standards, the goodwill, the intangible asset is generated upon acquisition, and we need to prove the value based on future cash flows. So we need to discount the future cash flows to say, okay, we can support the value. And the standard around goodwill and intangible asset impairment is really for mature companies that are existing, that are generating cash flows. The one thing that we have with Radix Motion is that, upon acquisition, all of the science, all of the development had moved from sort of conceptual into an area where we applied for patents, and now we're looking for a partnership to bring the application to a cash generating unit. But essentially, when you take those facts and apply it to the standard, they say, okay, well, you're not showing the value today. So what we did was essentially we put a reserve against the valuation. So in this case, in the future, when Radix can actually take this technology, these applications, and commercialize it and start to generate cash flow from those operations, we do have the ability at that point in time to reverse that impairment to show the value again. So essentially what occurred at year end was an impairment reserve, because at this current point in time, we can't show the cash flow, but us as management, we sit back and we know what we've acquired, and we're more patient than the accounting standard. Let's just end it at that.
Yeah, David, that's well said. And listen, this very, very candidly, and I'll be careful how I say this, but we're grateful for our auditors, incredible auditors. And it is a process. Auditors compliance is compliance is the trend right now for across the board. You think about trying to go get a mortgage, even that's more difficult than it might have been last year. Like everything is really scrutinized, and there's an accounting standard that is very interesting and very educational to me, in fact. But one thing that an accounting standard can't be applicable to, I think, is an entrepreneur's standard and an entrepreneur's vision and goals and dreams. And with the hard work, we're very confident in what we can still do and will do with Radix Motion. And you've heard Sarah, who's the CEO of Radix Motion, here today, and there's no arguing the value of what she's already providing just here. And down the road, when it comes to hopefully monetizing some of the initiatives throughout Radix Motion, we're excited by that potential. I did ask my lawyers if I could talk about this, and there was one thing that Sarah was working on, that was about 9 months of Radix Motion's time last year, that didn't end up happening. And so looking backwards, it would have been very significant, we believe, for Red Light Holland and for Radix Motion. That might have actually changed those numbers. And maybe, I think, Sarah, we can talk about it a little bit about one of the things that didn't happen, but I mean, I think it was very significant that it's safe to say, like, these are the types of companies that are looking at maybe doing types of work with Radix Motion, and the conversations that you do have with very, very, well-known companies.
Yeah, I spent months and months negotiating taking Radix IP and technology into clinical trials with Atai.
That's Atai, right? Atai Life Sciences?
Atai, yeah. And as some of you might know, Atai recently shut down a lot of their future projects. And this was one of them that also got cut. But it's not the end. I'm talking, again, we never jump the gun and come out with announcements, but I am in continued discussions with pharma companies, some of them much bigger even than Atai, that I believe will have the funds to take this into clinical trials. There's a lot of very unique IP that we have an amazing IP advisor, Graham Pechnick, who's really protecting the uniqueness of the technology, of looking at biometric data, data that's coming from your body, your movements, and how it can integrate into clinical trials for different both medications and different diagnostics. And I'm still very optimistic that this is gonna change the world in a very big way. But these sales cycles to these very big pharma companies, they take a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, and just to clarify, because I know shareholders are listening. Nothing is material fact. That is a did not happen. It's not like it's not going to happen at this point. Just to clarify, I don't want to mislead anyone who's thinking about financial due diligence and financial advice. If you are interested in investing in Red Light Holland, this was stuff that almost happened, didn't happen. A whole digital therapeutics program sort of ended over there. But there were very long discussions with Sarah and Radix. And these are just the types of value that Radix has. So to answer that question in terms of a longer term approach as opposed to an impairment now, we're very confident still in the longer term approach.
Todd, we have a few questions in the chat, all regarding the farmland in Peterborough and AEM. A lot of people are asking specifically about the timeline, as well as what sorts of mushrooms we'll be planning to grow, and if a little bit about the distribution plan for those mushrooms.
Perfect. Thanks, Maggie. And I'll address that all in one. That's a way to do it for sure. So as you know, we have partners at AEM in New Brunswick. We're doing Shiitake farm. We're about 60-70% capacity and doing well. And you know, looking to ramp that up to full capacity, about that 5,000 pounds a week distribution with it, and you know, equating to about $30,000 a week in sales, which we've disclosed in the MD&A. When it comes to the farmland that we bought in Peterborough, which we believe we got a really good deal on too, and it's a tangible asset that the company holds to equate to our total assets, and you know, we really believe in the farmland value alone. But we're excited to continue to work with AEM and build out AEM Peterborough. Before we closed on the land, we had conversations with the township of Cavan Monaghan, and I hope I said it right, Peterborough. and we also spoke to the Conservation Authority in terms of our ideas of what we could do there. So right now, working with both our partners from Carleton Mushroom Farms and Holborn Mushroom Farms, who collectively, by the way, do 13 million pounds of mushroom sales a year. That's what they do. So they bring in a lot of experience. I mean, our partner, Mike Medeiros, is on the presidents of Mushrooms Canada. We're dealing with the real deal here. We are carefully, because everything is done carefully, going through the design process. When we eventually get the permits for that design process, we will present it to the township. We have open conversations. In fact, I have a meeting with them on September 27th, I believe, that I'm going up to the Peterborough area to meet with them directly. And we will slowly try to go through the approval process of getting the permits of what we want to do there. And we anticipate, based on our farmers who have built out facilities like this in the past, and trying to factor in some of these supply chain issues and increasing prices when it comes to steel costs and things like this, shipping costs, that we think we can get a facility done in about 18 months. If there's a change on that, we will update everybody. And then from there, you ramp up production in terms of sales. We disclosed in our MD&A as well, with a little bit of guidance in terms of where we could be after 18 months. Starts off at about 80,000 per week in sales, what we think we're going to do, and then ramp that up one day to maybe potentially getting up to 16, 17 million in annual revs out of that facility. Again, that is down the road. We're talking at least 24 months for those types of numbers. But in terms of the update of the mushrooms that we're going to be doing there, I actually want to reserve that tight to us. It is a competitive market. We do have a little bit of a spin on what we plan on doing there. And we're excited in terms of the production that we will do out of that facility to announce it in due course. Right now, I don't want to give it away because, again, we think we have a unique spin from our mushroom experts in terms of why we believe we can achieve those types of revenues.
Okay, excellent. The last question I'm seeing in the chat, Todd, is just with respect to the functional mushroom grow kit market. How much potential does Red Light Holland see for this growth? And also, how competitive is the market getting? I know you touched on that a little bit now.
Well, no, it's also interesting though. Like I just shared a report today with David and Ridley Doolittle, our CMO, about what others are projecting the functional mushroom market to be across the world. And we're talking like $25 billion was what people project this market to be within by 2028 or 2029, I think, to be up to $50 billion. So there's a big market for functional mushroom products. There's a really big market for home grow kit markets. Again, we've increased Happy Cap sales month over month since we acquired 80% controlling stake of them. We're learning a lot about our products. We're learning what deals well in certain climate conditions and what maybe needs to be cold shipped and what doesn't need to be cold shipped. focused on lion's mane, oyster, shiitake now. We did pink oysters for a Mother's Day special. Our mycologist on staff are very knowledgeable in terms of whether it's a chestnut mushroom or other mushrooms that maybe we'll do as product SKUs. We also want to, do that with Mr. Cap homebrew kits and look at other functional mushroom products. It's a big market though. Everything comes down to branding. I mean, many of you, if you're into the mushroom space right now, I'm sure you go on Instagram right now and you'll be scrolling through and you'll see a lot of mushroom products pop up. And I can tell you that a lot of those companies are spending multiples of millions of dollars on marketing those products. Are they getting the return on that, or do they continually need to raise money to facilitate a real business model? While it may look good on a marketing front, perhaps you're not getting the types of revenues in to support the sales. So everything for us right now is a slow build, but we will be aggressive when it comes to Mr. Cap because we have the support of 140 million followers on Wiz Khalifa's social media channels, and he gets great engagement. I mean, people love Wiz. So that's where we'll be aggressive. We do see it being a very big industry. Mushrooms are very educational. Psilocybin, we're learning, of course, what the effects can do. And more people are even putting in studies to see what can reishi do, what can lion's mane do, what can oyster do, what can shiitake do. There are products that I use regularly of other people's to see if they're working for me. And then maybe, back to my ideas, maybe one thing I really like, and hey, maybe that's a company we can talk to one day and see if there could be a partnership or a white label or something, because they have great products. There's gummies out there. There's tinctures out there. There's, we have some of our own creative ideas, what we want to do with functional mushroom products for Mr. Cap. So we're excited. It's a big market. And I can even share that study on our website, excuse me, about how big the market actually is.
Todd, do you mind commenting on the financing arrangement for the build out of AEM Ontario?
So the financial arrangement actually is something that we're still discussing, quite candidly. We have a lot of cash, as people know, but we also have a lot of opportunity with tangible assets to borrow against them and do construction loans. So maybe David can jump in a little briefly, but these are discussions management's having as we focus on the build out at AEM Peterborough.
Yeah, and thanks for that setup, Todd. But we're in a great position where at present we don't have a lot of debt on our balance sheet. We do have some operating leases, but we do have the option when we look at something like this to finance it through a construction loan, which typically you can finance up to 60 to 65%. And then we get to the point upon completion, when the facility has been commercialized, then we have the opportunity to get a typical mortgage on that as well. So we do have some time before we we're going to start construction, and we're going to take that to evaluate all of the options that we have. And it's essentially, we will be using our cash off of the balance sheet, but we will find a way to finance that to, again, as part of our stated strategy around cash flow management is preservation. So we will explore all options, but we're very excited for that facility to be up and running and become a contributor to cash flow as well, because it's one of the exciting projects that we have. And going back to Todd's triangle that we saw at the very beginning, that sort of bottom foundation of being revenue, this is going to be something that's going to contribute to future growth and future expansion of this organization.
And the other neat thing, if in your water cooler conversations or out at the bar, if people start complaining that Bill Gates owns all the farmland, you could say, no, Red Light's got some as well. and the farmland got a great value, great valuation over in New Brunswick at about $2.5 million as a valuation there. So we're very pleased with our hard assets on the books as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I believe I got to everyone's questions in the chat. Apology if I've missed any, but thank you everyone for sending your questions in.
Yeah, Maggie, thank you so much for coordinating this and facilitating all the questions for the Q&A. If for some reason we did miss anybody, back to being transparent as a company, seriously, reach out to us. We purposely have a very easy handle at redlight.co, and it's just Todd@redlight.co, Sarah@redlight.co. For financial questions, it's David@redlight.co. Time management wise, we can't always get to everything immediately, but we do our very best to answer the questions. And as you're all aware, we can't sort of lead anybody into anything until we make it an announcement if something was material fact. So in terms of assumptions or forward looking, we have to be super careful of what we bring to the market and when we bring it to the market to give every investor that fair opportunity to sort of learn about it and then decide through financial advice or through their own financial due diligence to invest in Red Light Holland. But most importantly, we are a part of this big movement together. And I think of our company like that mini little Tesla movement where we're in this. You could see the passion investing out of you from these Q&A. Yes, of course, you want to learn what we're doing as a business, but you can also feel, I can't see all of you, but you can feel from you that you believe in this vision. And this is a vision that hopefully, as much as Red Light aims to grow, others grow with it too, because if we all grow together, it means that we're all ultimately making positive change. And that's the entire goal of this. We love it. We love the fact that you did this. This is like overwhelming. It's 4:00 now, 2 hours of an investor Q&A. It's like, what are we, like Warren Buffett here or something? Like this is really special and very rare in the small cap world, especially. But we'd also like to think that we're a pretty rare gem as well by being cautious with our cash, by being confident in that triangular approach of building, by making noise, having been talked about on Joe Rogan in the past, having been talked about on Jimmy Kimmel's night show, late night show through Wiz Khalifa and that brand we're building, Mr. Caps, and of course, delivering quarter over quarter growth. And we're doing our very best to obviously increase shareholder value. I will do more of these at some point. In the interim, we're focused, we're determined, and we're passionate. So thank you so much. Free the magic, and let's have some fun together while we, hopefully see the fruits of our labor as we work on behalf of all of you. So thank you so much for that. And any other questions, please reach out. Buy some merch. You'll learn more about the Wisdom Truffle soon, and when you can buy that, go to happycaps.ca, order some home grow kits. And home grow kits is also a strategy we see for psilocybin one day, hopefully. And please, spread the word. Again, it's about educational, responsible use, affordable and equitable access. And we are here for you at Red Light Holland. So thank you again. And we really wish everyone to hopefully have tomorrow off, or it's already been a short week, but enjoy the weekend, enjoy tomorrow, enjoy the final months of summer here. And we look forward to being in touch soon.